Hey guys, Scott here. New developer update for DVD. Didn't even know they were doing this. So let's go over the changes and see what they got. First up, they're changing the nightmare. Basically, all you need to know about this section is they're making you get slowed down when you are putting down your actual snares, and you have less snares from 8 to 5. You move at normal survivor movement speed when you're putting your snares on the ground. So they're trying to say this will promote more strategic use of his dream traps rather than placing them constantly during a chase, which I don't think it will. I don't think this addresses the core gameplay issue with Freddy and why he's boring to go against at all. Because the thing is, if you're slowed while you're putting the traps down, it doesn't matter. Because typically, the play with Freddy is you sit on the pallet and you place a trap on one side, place a trap on the other side. Then you basically run one side, force the survivor to run through the snare, then you double back. And then while they're slowed, they have to run all the way around, and then they run through the other snare, and by the time they get there, they're double slowed. Not double slowed, they're extended duration slowed, and then you can hit them. That's typically how Freddy gameplay goes. Just because you're putting your traps down and you're slower during that, it doesn't change that at all. The only way that would be useful is if while you're placing traps down, the survivors try to leave the loop and gain extra distance from your new slowdown. But most people are not going to do that because there's got to be another one very close because you can just cancel putting the snare down and then they just left the loop and you hit them. So this doesn't really change the actual core gameplay of Freddy at all. It's not like he's a killer where you set you set traps initially during the match like Trapper or Hag. He doesn't work like that. You get into a loop, you place two, and then you make them run through it. That's just how Freddy works. It's very uninteresting for both sides, and it seems like they didn't really address that. They didn't really get what is uninteresting about him because this doesn't really affect anything at all. And they also nerfed the number of dream pallets for some reason, like anyone was using those. So I don't know how they did that. The one change that they made that I think I agree with is them removing the mass slowdown add-ons like swing chains, stuff like that, because God, swing chains, force slowdown perk, red paintbrush Freddies are just so boring. Oh my God. Even if they're not the strongest thing in the world, it's just so fucking boring to go against. So while I don't think Freddy needed to be nerfed, I think that aspect of him was so mind-numbingly boring that I'm okay with them changing that. But the actual changes to his snares don't do anything. So if you're a Freddy main and you didn't use mass slowdown add-ons every game, you'll be fine. You're probably not even going to notice a difference in your core gameplay. You'll be all right. For everyone else, though, at least they won't have to deal with those add-ons anymore, which is nice. So I don't think this will affect good Freddys like at all. And the bad Freddys that relied on mass slowdown add-ons will not be able to use them anymore. So, I mean, it's probably overall a net gain for the game, I guess. I don't know. I don't think Freddy really needed that much of a change anyway. I get that his stats were super high and stuff like that, but I didn't think he needs so much of a change. Except his mass slowdown add-ons, which they did change. So overall, his core gameplay, I don't believe is going to change whatsoever. It seems like they didn't quite understand what makes him boring to go against. And him being slowed down while putting snares down doesn't do anything, really. Unless I'm missing something here. That's how most Freddys play. You just put like, you sit in the pallet, and then you put two traps down, and then make them run through both. That's about it. So that's not really going to affect anything, but we'll see. Demogorgon, some pretty sizable buffs involving his speed. He traverses portals faster. When he gets out of a portal, he can move quicker, and he remains undetectable for longer upon exiting a portal. That's great. Got a couple of new add-ons here. This one is, for a purple add-on, pretty worthless. You can just charge of the Abyss basically for free to get a quick scan on anyone. So you can. This basically just makes it so you don't have to hold your right mouse button down to see where people are. Maybe that could be useful if you're just lazy or something like that. I don't think it's worthy of a very rare add-on. It's just sort of a quality of life thing. So it's whatever. Rotten Pumpkin's interesting. Sometimes when you play demo on the early game, you've placed too many portals and you have none left. As the game gets later and you want to start marking your 3-gen, with this add-on, you can destroy your own portals and basically set up a 3-gen like that. So that is cool, but then it also has the downside of you making your 3-gen weaker because you have to reset your own portals every time you come out now. So it's interesting. I like that the add-on gives you a choice, so that's kind of cool. Huntress has gotten another iridescent add-on. Iridescent head has been made basically worthless. So this add-on here makes it so you move at normal movement speed while you have no hatchets, which is extremely boring, in my opinion, for an iridescent add-on. When I think of iridescent add-ons, I think of like, Tombstone or, like iridescent button or like things that like drastically change an aspect of the game for the killer. This is you move slightly faster when you have no hatchets. That's just so boring for an iridescent add-on. It's just uninspired, and God, of all the things they could have done, they just made that. I don't even think I would get any use out of this add-on. Typically, a good Huntress does not have a scenario in which she has no hatchets and still wants to chase people. Now, I know that is because she is slower, and thus you don't want to M1 people while you're a slower killer. But really, you don't want to M1 people without you don't want to have no hatchets because then you're just a killer without a power. So typically, you'll never find a good Huntress without hatchets unless she's just finished downing somebody like that. Otherwise, she's screwed up massively. Even if I had normal movement speed with Huntress, I still wouldn't want to just chase people normally. I would want to go get hatchets so I can, use Huntress. So yeah, in terms of iridescent add-ons, this is just boring and not even great. It's okay. It's a nice quality of life thing for Huntresses that run out of hatchets, but I can't see myself ever using it. And the fact that it's iridescent makes no sense. That's like a brown add-on at best. That's shit. I'm sorry. That's just boring and shit. Iridescent head, you're now capped at 1 hatchet regardless, which is, I think, the most boring change they could have done to Iridescent head. I still think it should have rewarded good Huntresses that do very long-range shots while not having a penalty anymore. I think they would have been way more interesting. They could have had ricocheting hatchets or something like that because they have the coding with Trickster now. They could have done a lot more fun stuff than you just get 1 hatchet now. This is awful. This is a terrible Iridescent add-on. I would never use this. It's weaker than using no add-ons in my opinion. Getting 1 down, then having to go reload every time, it completely removes the snowball potential from Huntress, which makes her so good, and it just neuters the shit out of her. Old Iridescent head was insanely strong because you could down, basically the entire team in 1 reload, which is ridiculously overpowered. Now you can down 1 guy, and you can't tunnel or, I guess, snowball anymore. So I guess you have to tunnel. You have to go only for 1 guy because then you're out of hatchets. So that is a really, really bad change in my opinion. Because you have to think about it like math-wise. With this new Iridescent head, for 1 hatchet, for 1 reload, you can down 1 survivor. And if you were to use, infantry belt in the loops, you could, down 3.5 survivors. If you were to use no add-ons, you can down 2.5 survivors. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's better to have no add-ons now. You can down more people and snowball more in 1 reload compared to, it's just, the only way that this Iridescent head is better is if at the beginning of the match you snipe someone, they go down, and then they DC because they got instantly one shot. That's basically the only way this add-on could be better. Other than that, this add-on is worse to have than nothing, in my opinion. So just awful, awful change. Doesn't really affect me much. I'm not going to use either of these add-ons, so I actually don't care that much. Just in terms of add-on design, these are just really badly done, I think. But it doesn't really affect me, so whatever. It says they also changed our other add-ons too, so I'm curious what they did about the weaker ones. Like, the hindered ones and the blind ones. The exhaustion add-ons needed to be nerfed, actually. 90 seconds of exhaustion is ridiculous with the exhaustion changes that have happened years ago. So I think those needed to be nerfed, actually. So I'm curious to see what they did with their other add-ons, but these two are just super disappointing and boring. They could have done so much more with that. Twins got a couple of changes. I guess Victor got nerfed. After you down a survivor, he can't do anything for longer. Because that needed to happen. Camera controls immediately restored when taking control of Charlotte. That's nice quality of life. And then a couple of small add-on changes. I can't imagine it's going to make me jump back into Twins anytime soon, but people that play Twins, I'm sure they'll like the camera control, I guess. And I guess this one is probably not too impactful unless you're, chaining multiple downs with Victor, which I guess they're trying to stop you from snowballing. I don't know. Perk updates. Small game. So small game now shows you the number of totems, which is cool. I still think that should be a base mechanic of the game, to be honest, to make more parity with Survive with Friends and Solo Queue. I really think they should do that. So the fact that it's tied to a perk, that's the nature of behavior. It's tying things that should be based on the game, or baseline game mechanics to a perk. But, I mean, that's pretty cool. And the detection ranges, it decreases for 5 degrees for each totem cleanse. So basically, it gets more and more widespread so you can find that last totem. I think that's a cool dynamic change. I actually like that one a lot. Small game no longer detects traps. That's fine. I mean, it was basically just fuck you, Trapper. So I like that. It shows the remaining totems. This is if you hate Noed. Then this is very, very good. This is like the Noed counter. Now you can have the solo queue Noed counter because you can't communicate with your teammates to see how many totems they've broken. So that's really cool. And I really, really like this idea. This is a very clever design choice, in my opinion. If you guys don't understand what this means, basically every time you break a totem, the detection range gets wider and wider and wider, so the last totem has a big angle of attack and finding, it's so you don't confuse multiple totems at once. It's smaller at the beginning, and then when there's none left, it's just giant, so you can just find your last one. That's cool. Lucky Break. This, I feel like Lucky Break is going to be my least favorite perk in the game now. This is a absolutely gigantic buff. This is one of the strongest survivor perks in the game, in my opinion, right now. So right now, how Lucky Breaks works was when you get injured, you don't have blood for 2 minutes or something like that. Now you will not have scratch marks or blood for a minute and a half. So you injure a survivor, and now they have no discernible visual cues of where they are for a minute and a half. And that will reset when they heal again. That is insanely strong. That is extremely very good. If you combine that with Iron Will, you now have no audio stimulus and you have no visual stimulus. So as soon as you go down to kick a pallet, they're gone. Like, the whole break the chase and hide thing has been a meme because you can't do that. This perk will actually let you break the chase and hide. As soon as you kick a pallet, you can go any direction and the killer will have no idea where you've gone. So, if you're in a map like Rotten Fields, then sure, you'll see the corn moving. But if you're on a map like Hawkins or Larry's or the game or any indoor map or any claustrophobic map, this perk is going to be a fucking nightmare for killers in comparison, or in combination with Iron Will. Because with that, you will not have any breathing sounds, you won't have any injured sounds, you won't have any scratches, you won't have any blood. And with audio occlusion, you might not have any footsteps. So there will be literally 0 ways to detect a person as soon as you hit them. And it's a minute and a half. If it was like 20 seconds or something, so they get like a little head start, fine. But it's a minute and a half. That is like 2 full chase durations. That is I'm gonna fucking hate this perk. I think they made this too good, actually. This is the first time I've said this in like a long time. I think they actually made this perk too good. I think that's actually overbuffed. Just removing blood was not enough, but hiding scratch marks for a minute and a half with the requirement of just simply getting hit once, Lucky Break Iron Will is going to be the build. That's like, oh my god, that's going to be so strong. I'm going to fucking hate that perk so much. Oh god, poor Spirit too. Spirit now, if you go against a survivor with Lucky Break and Iron Will, Spirit literally cannot do anything. She can't see scratches or blood or hear them, or she just can't do shit. Oh man, I think they overbuffed that perk. I actually, that effect is too powerful to last for a minute and a half for just the requirement of getting hit once. That's, I think, too strong. I cannot believe I've said those words. They actually overbuffed a perk, in my opinion. Anyway, Soul Guard. Soul Guard now is the cooldown of 30 seconds. This is basically to just prevent bully squads from combining. We'll make it, and we're going to live forever and picking people up repeatedly in an infinite chain of not being able to go down. This won't affect your normal game very much, but that's pretty funny. Open-handed has been buffed for a single effect, but it's been nerfed for stacking it. So basically, more people don't have to run it to get the same effect. That's a good change, I think. Ascension Tactics is now permanently active. I think that's cool. I think this is a good perk for new killers. It's not like Windows of Opportunity, though, which I think has more value, because with Windows of Opportunity and solo queue, it lets you see which pallets have been used by your teammates, because you're not actively in a chase all the time, so you can't see which ones are being used. With Killer, though, you should know which pallets have been dropped and stuff like that, because you're in every chase. You should just be able to keep track of which ones you've broken or not. Similarly, you should be able to tell which tile that you're in, TL walls, long wall, short walls, and long walls themselves. You know, the pallet is on the left side on the long wall. It's on the right side on the long wall, short wall. You should be able to just identify these things. Like, you know, it's a good perk for newer killers, but you can very quickly learn tiles and which where pallets will be without having to have this perk. So I think that's a cool buff to it that it's permanently on. It'll help new players a lot, but it's not as helpful as like Windows of Opportunity, which has that added benefit of helping you in solo queue because you don't know which ones have been dropped. So borrowed time now is basically, it always happens no matter what. So killers like Freddy can still have borrowed time against them, but the duration of the endurance effect has been shortened. So I think this change is fine. It doesn't really affect that much. It just makes it so Freddy is now not immune to it, and Wraith is not immune to it as well. Basically, it removes it so you can't just camp and then just, you know, tunnel a guy off the hook. I think this is a fine change. I can't really find any huge downsides to this at all. So yeah, that's a good change. Object of Obsession is what they talked about earlier, or anytime your aura is revealed to the killer, their aura is revealed to you. So if they have barbecue and chili, you'll immediately know they have barbecue. If they have nurses calling, you'll see their aura when you start healing. So it lets you get an idea of what perks they have, which is neat. And there's also a passive effect if you're the obsession. You see each other like old object every 30 seconds. So I think it's a cool change. I actually like this object rework. I like the idea of being able to figure out what perks they have on the fly, and it still has a little bit of the old effect too, where you can see each other. So I think it's a healthy change and one of the more well-designed things they've done this patch. Toolboxes give you more skill checks now. That's cool, I guess. So you can have like a more strategic choice if you want to try to get more greats. Toolboxes last like 5 seconds though, so they better have a lot more skill checks because it's not going to really matter much, but whatever, not a huge change. Hash now closes in 10 seconds rather than 30 seconds if it's opened with a key, which is a great change and a good start to key nerfs, I think. I think they need to do a bit more to like have an actual opening animation for the key so they can't just jump in the killer's face. But I think that's a good change so far. So if someone's using a key, typically the entire team needs to be right next to them or they're not going to get in. So that's cool. Good change, I think. The HUD, they updated a bit. They made it a bit more clear for like madness and sleeping and things like that. So these are things I need to visually see to comment on, but it sounds good so far. Struggling on hook. Now you have to hit skill checks like you're on Pyramid Head's cages, which is, I don't know. See, they're doing this, I think, so people don't just immediately kill themselves. But the thing is, if someone wants to immediately kill themselves on the hook, it means they don't want to play the game anymore, which means they're not going to play the game anymore. If you get them off the hook, they're just going to stand still, die again, and get hooked again. It extends their life by 30 seconds. It doesn't do anything. So this won't fix that because you can't change human nature. That's just, you can't force people to play a game. But I guess it is nice not having to mash spacebar, because that is a dumb, antiquated mechanic. So I think this is preferable to mashing a button. But it's not going to stop people from killing themselves if they want to. So, but no one can do that. But yeah, overall, I think it's a good change. Mashing a button is not really great. And finally, a farm update. I don't know why there's so many more maps that need updates more than like the initial ones, but yeah, I mean, it looks okay. It seems like all they did was just make it daylight. It's just daytime now, which I mean, okay. I don't know. It doesn't really look. You know what it is? I think corn just looks ugly. I don't think there's a way to make corn look good in a video game. I think you have to make corn animated. That's probably the only way to make corn look good in a video game because it's just ugly. So that's probably why it still looks not amazing. This looks okay. Like the shadows in this box are not too bad. Like these shadows are pretty cool. It looks okay. It just seems to be like they just switched it from nighttime to daytime. So whatever. Doesn't seem like a huge deal. Do I see any breakable walls? For fuck's sake. Not yet. All right, we'll see. We'll see what they'll do with breakable walls. Overall, though, not their best. I'm extremely worried about Lucky Break. Huntress changes were just badly made. Demogorgon changes were great. Freddy updates pretty neutral about. Perk changes were both good and bad. Yeah, I think overall this is pretty average. They did a lot of good stuff and they did a lot of bad stuff. So I guess we'll see. PTB should be up in probably like a week or something like that. So we'll check out these changes there. You can see the visual changes, but overall, meh. 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. Not bad. Not great. Something wrong again. Chernobyl meme. All right, bye.